Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I appreciate you guys listening to all the content we produce here at the SEC Unfiltered channel. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, longtime SEC personnel, recruiting staffer, whatever you want to call it, director of player personnel, and I am here to give you the top 5 impactful players for the Georgia Bulldogs heading in 2024. But before we do, guys, to keep the lights on, we got to pay some bills. And starting off with our guys, our best buddies at MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit, guys. College football is right around the corner. It's August 1st. We have football this month all the way through the month of February, and then even through the other sports we cover here at SEC Unfiltered, basketball, baseball. I encourage you to use it. And again, first-time code, first-time user, you registering, use that code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit, guys. But let's get to why you are here. The top 5 impact players for the Georgia Bulldogs heading into 2024. We're going to go in reverse order here. Start with number 5. This may come as a surprise to some, but I'm really bullish on him. I've been bullish on him all season, all off season. Number 5, Ernest Green. The left tackle started all 14 games at the left tackle position for the Georgia Bulldogs as a redshirt freshman. That doesn't happen a lot at a place like Georgia where they've produced phenomenal offensive lines across the board for a couple of years now. I mean, even go back with Sam Pittman was there. They won it the year Matt Luke was there. Now they got Stacey Searles. But physical player, possesses heavy hands, good in his pass sets, can run block. But the thing I love the most about Ernest Green is just his ability to finish. That was always something I looked for in offensive lineman, that nasty, just a mean side to you. It didn't have to be off the field, but when you step in between those lines, I want to see how you finish, man. Got to have some nasty to you. Rewatch, went back, not this time, just throughout the past few years, probably went back and watched 8 Georgia games from last year, all the conference games. And the only play I remember him having just like a negative play in a critical situation was probably in the SEC championship where he gave up a big sack on 3rd down to Dallas Turner, if I remember off the top of my head. Pushed Georgia back a little bit. They were in field goal range. Pushed it back. It ended up, Peyton Woodring ended up missing it. But that's really the only play that just comes off the top of my head that I really just, I'm like, that's really probably where he got beat. Now, I'm sure he went back. I'm sure Stacey Searles will tell you, he could have improved his game. I'm sure Ernest would tell you that. But he wants to be a part of a fraternity that produces phenomenal offensive linemen. And that's when you know your program is at an elite level. I mean, you hear Nick Saban talk about Alabama and Julio Jones and how he held even guys after him to a standard when he come back and train in Tuscaloosa. I think that's the case now in a lot of positions at Georgia, but specifically the offensive line. I mean, the 2019 offensive line he's talking about. I know they didn't win a national championship, but they had guys like Andrew Thomas, Isaiah Wilson, Solomon Kinley. He realized, I think Ernest Green likes coming into that, man. Like, you know what? I was a part of that Georgia offensive line. I think he's going to take that big step. I think he is one of the higher ceilings on Georgia's entire roster. I would be shocked. I don't say this a lot. If Ernest Green is not a day 1 Thursday night selection in the NFL draft here, whether that's next year or the year after. But Ernest Green coming in at number 5, I've been bullish on him all off season. But you could even make a case he could probably be a little higher. But I'm just talking about impacting the team a little bit. Somebody may be a little there may be some names you're a little shocked that I don't have on the list. Because, again, this isn't the best 5 players on Georgia's roster. Impactful. Number 4, may get some flack on this one. Ellis Robinson, the true freshman from IMG, the corner. Most years, Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann have had a defensive back step up to be a prime contributor on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, most recently, Michael Williams, Malachi Starks at the safety position, C.J. Allen played some. I think Ellis Robinson is going to be that guy at the corner spot this year. And you can make a case for some other true freshmen, especially in the secondary. I mean, K.J. Bolden, they're going to need someone to step up at the safety position opposite of Malachi Starks. I mean, maybe that is Dan Jackson, but so they need another body to step up on the back end. Ellis Robinson was there in the spring, possesses a fantastic length and size, and it's rare to see someone have the overall athletic ability, fluidity, whatever you want to call it, when he's that high cut. I mean, I know he's listed 6'6", but he's a very high cut kid. Normally, when evaluating the cornerback spot, you see the high cut kids, you're giving up a little bit of some size for speed or speed for size, vice versa, whatever you want to call it. It's rare to find the combination of both. That's what Ellis Robinson possesses. He was also, like I mentioned, he was in Athens, so him getting acclimated to the defense from being there in January through the spring period, throughout the summer. He's acclimated. He knows this is just, hey, I'm taking my summer course once fall camp started this week. Like he understands what is expected of him. Again, if he wasn't an early enrollee, he's not on this list. But Georgia needs another guy to step up on the back end. I think they get it from a true freshman, something Georgia, Kirby Smart, Glenn Shumate, even Georgia fans are not it's not like they're unfamiliar with it. Georgia has freshmen all the time step up. Even going back to Kirby Smart's days at Alabama, they would have guys they truly believed in. Minka Fitzpatrick being one. So true freshman play, if you're good enough at Georgia, and I think him being a true freshman will be massive. Coming in at number 3, we're going to the offensive side of the ball again. We started off with Ernest Green. Went to Ellis Robinson on the defensive side of the ball. Coming in at number 3 now. It's a guy we're all waiting for it to happen for. Number 3, Dylan Bell, the wide receiver. I think it happens. New offensive line, new wide receiver coach James Coley is high on him when I've talked to him. You can make the argument that Bell is the most versatile player on the Georgia offense. He obviously can line up outside at the wide receiver spot, but he also can be utilized in the backfield if that depth doesn't come along for Georgia like they're thinking it will outside of Trevor Etienne. Bell caught 29 passes last year for 355 yards and 2 touchdowns, or rushing 25 times for 155 yards and 2 more scores. Even threw an 18-yard touchdown pass. And Georgia's winning is Tennessee, but those aren't like astronomical Heisman or even All-American numbers. I shouldn't say Heisman. That's too high. I'm not expecting that out of him. Just threw the highest achievement out there really for a skill player out there. But I think being in a second year with Carson Beck being the true starter, I think is really going to help. I think the trust is only going to be built even more through the summer, the spring. They need him to step up here, especially with the dismissal of RHOBACK Thomas. They need him to step up. I know everyone's been calling this for the last 2 seasons. Wait, just watch out for Dylan Bell. Just watch out for Dylan Bell. I feel like I've been hearing that since 2022. But I think we actually see that this year. I think it's actually going to happen. It's going to happen this year. I think Dylan Bell's going to have a massive impact on that offense, and that's why he comes in number 3 for me for the Georgia Bulldogs in 24. Number 2, I just mentioned his name just briefly if you caught it, if you were listening hard. My favorite running back in the SEC heading into 2024. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know he's coming over from Florida. I'm talking about Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne, he's one of the most versatile running backs in the country. That's what modern offenses wants. He can make plays between the tackles, but he is also a threat in the passing game out in the flats as well. If you have him, you make defenses have to cover 100 yards, 50 yards wide as well. You got to cover end zone to sideline. You're making them cover the entire length and width of the field. And let's be honest, you can make the case Etienne was probably Florida's second best explosive threat last year, right behind Trey Wilson, and that's a weakness in Florida's hole. So if you want to be like, hey, Georgia took the second best playmaker on their biggest rivals team. I know Georgia has bigger fish to fry than probably what Florida's looking for. Florida's trying to get that 6 to 8 win season. Georgia, it's national championship or bust. I know you're comparing apples to oranges here right now. That's not a shot at Florida. Just we're calling a spade a spade. That's what we do here at the SEC Unfiltered channel. But Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, we know it. In a perfect world, and even when Todd Monken was there, they like to go with a guy by committee approach at the running back room. And a lot of teams do that. I think Etienne at his best he's at his best when he has a teammate similar to like Montrell Johnson, the running back at Florida. It's kind of a little thunder lightning type thing, a little thunder lightning. He needs someone to be a compliment back to him. It's a true north and south guy. And I think Roderick Robinson could be that guy. He's a big, thick, chiseled guy. Go Google him, go X him, go Twitter him, whatever you call it. Go look at pictures of Roderick Robinson. He could be this compliment that Trevor Etienne needs. If Branson Robinson comes back from injury, he could also be that complimentary back for Etienne as well. But make no mistake about it, folks. Etienne is the most versatile back Georgia has had on the roster since probably DeAndre Swift in 2018 and 19. I feel confident in saying that. So that's why he comes in at number 2. I think he's going to have a big impact from a versatility and a dynamic and an impactful standpoint for this Georgia offense in 2024. And then finally, number 1, guys. If you followed any of my stuff, I talked about how Georgia struggled up front last year. We're looking for those big-time guys like a Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter up front that you're used to Georgia even having. I mean, even Lorenzo Carter, Davin Bellamy had more impact than some of the guys last year, going a little bit further back. But number 1, Mykel Williams, guys. Georgia's been focusing on havoc plays this offseason if you followed or kept up or talked to anybody inside of that building due to lack of production last season. Now, I think the Columbus, Georgia native, Hardaway High School to be exact, is going to be the leader of the havoc plays up front for the Georgia defense that really needs that to happen to reach their ultimate goal of winning a national championship. I mentioned that when I briefly mentioned Florida. It's national championship or bust for Georgia, and they're one of the few programs that can actually say that. Offensive coordinators, I think this year are going to have trouble locating Mykel Williams from play to play. Is now he's going to split time, I think, between going to that true defensive end spot to that jack spot where he can rush the passer and he's going to have to drop, play a little bit more in space, more of a linebacker spot. And I think he's going to wreck some havoc. I think it's a third down pass rush on the interior, the defensive tackle spot as well. But wherever he lines up, Williams figures to lead the charge for a defensive line that, let's be honest, Georgia was not up to standard. I don't want to use the word fade, but didn't play up to standard last year against the run. I mean, they went from number 1 against the run, I think, in 2022 to number 18. And again, that's not bad. There's some teams that would give their left, you-know-what, to have the number 18 rush defense. But for Georgia, Kirby Smart, Glenn Shumate, that's not a championship standard. It's not a championship standard. So I think they know that has to change. And some of that's due to the tight mint front alignment. I think they're willing to give up 3 to 4 yards a carry to limit explosive plays. I get it. It's the modern era of football. You just got to limit explosive plays. And if you're an offense, you have to have explosive plays. You're not just going to go have 10, 11 play drives and go consistently beat teams. I mean, the last team I remember doing that, probably 2020 Texas A&M, who would have those methodical drives. But they were so good running the football and so good on third down because they had a longtime guy for Kellen Mond under center, 4-year starter. But conversation for another day. Kirby Smart and Glenn Shumate understand the defensive line has to be better in 2024. And that starts with playing to Williams' strengths and letting him wreak havoc on opposing offensive lines. So that's 1 through 5 for you guys. And just some guys to miss the cut. I think I probably had more guys just miss the cut here for Georgia than I had for any of the other 4 teams I had done. Remember, we're going alphabetical order with this series. We've done Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, and Florida. And this one was a bit harder because, I mean, you can make a case for safety KJ Bolden, the true freshman. They need someone to step up opposite of Malachi Starks. Quarterback Carson Beck, of course, the most important position in the sport, probably the most important position in all the sports. Second year as a starter, he should have a big year. Dominic Lovett could have a big year. A lot of people thought he'd have it last year. The Missouri transfer, RHOBACK Thomas, is now off the team. You can see him having a big impact. I mentioned the defensive line needs someone to step up. Could that be Warren Brinson? Tight end, Ben Yursik, having to replace our guy Brock Bowers, coming over from Stanford. He could be it. Linebacker C.J. Allen and Small Munden. You could make a case for them. And like I mentioned him when I talked about Trevor Eaton. Roderick Robinson. He could be that guy in between the tackles runners that they need to complement Trevor Etienne. But just to recap, you guys, coming in at number 5, Ernest Green, the offensive tackle, started every game at left tackle for Georgia last year. True freshman Ellis Robinson coming in at number 4 at the corner spot. They need another body to step up on the back end. Number 3, wide receiver Dylan Bell. It's time. One of the more versatile players. Him and Trevor Etienne, I believe, on offense are the 2 most versatile, dynamic players on that side of the ball for them. Number 2, Trevor Etienne himself, coming over from Florida, my favorite running back in the league heading into the season. And then number 1, Georgia's going to win a national championship. The defense is going to have to be disruptive. They keep using the word havoc. I think Mykel Williams lining up all over that defensive line is going to cause a lot of issues for offensive coordinators across the league and probably in the country once we start getting into conference play. I'll be interested to see how Clemson and Garrett Riley handled that first week in Atlanta. But I appreciate you joining us on this segment of the top 5 most impactful players for the Georgia Bulldogs heading into 2024. I'm your host, Dave Shumate. Go like, subscribe, hit that notification. Follow us on all our social media platforms, guys. It's SEC content 24/7, 365. You have a phenomenal day, folks.